Good afternoon, everyone. It's no secret that the Yonkers Public Schools have faced some significant financial challenges over the years. Last year, when it was discovered that the Board of Education had made a mistake in its revenue projections, it was this governor who came to our aid with the delegation to help make the changes that we needed to make. It started off with $28 million in additional funding. We had to go through a process of changing how we operated our government. We had to merge 5 major departments. There were duplicative departments. You know, the Board of Education had 5 separate, the city 5 separate, even though we were the same government. And so, in concert with what our governor has been pushing for a long time, we merged, we consolidated. And when we merged and we consolidated, we come up with savings. And those savings allowed us to keep the school district moving with no cuts to services. So for that, I say thank you to the governor. This governor always told us, and he said it the day I talked to him was, God, I think it was in January of last year. He said, it's not a handout. You need to make the case. You need to make the case because you know why you need to make the case? Because I will need to make the case to the state legislature and to the taxpayers of New York State as to why we need to make additional funding available to your city. So you need to help yourself, and we'll be willing to help you. And we've done that. And we've turned adversity into opportunity. We've turned advocacy into what we're going to see here today. It's been like this for, as you know, for too long. There's been crisis, which has gone to paralysis, but we've changed that. Our crisis now goes and moves us towards opportunity. In partnership with Governor Cuomo and the state delegation, we implemented, like I said, unprecedented and historic consolidation of services between the city school district and the city government. We consolidated 5 departments: the finance department, the legal department, human resources, IT, and other personnel, absorbing 63 positions in all. It saved the district millions of dollars, and again, it allowed us to put the dollars where it belonged, and that's in the classrooms for our kids. And despite the cost savings, though, the budget shortfall, it's still of a magnitude that makes it very difficult for this city to solve in 1 year. Fact is, our schools continue to struggle under the shadow of multi-million-dollar deficit in our enrollment, despite the enrollment increases. It threatens the programs our schools can offer and the number of teachers that we can afford to continue paying. We've done virtually everything possible at the local level to bridge this gap. The fact is, this problem cannot be solved on the local Yonkers taxpayers alone. This is a problem that impacts families and educators all throughout the city, and especially the 5,000 students who attend our area's most struggling schools. The 77% who come from poor families. There's 12% of students whose primary language is not English. And all the students in our schools who have seen their enrichment programs, art, music, sports, dwindle over the years. Today we are turning a page on this problem, and I believe everyone can rest easier. Here to tell you more about the exciting developments is our great governor, somebody that I consider a friend, but more importantly, somebody who has changed the direction of this state, who has made this state the #1 state for opportunity, has made this state the state that pays attention to the things that matters most, making sure that the taxpayers are getting a fair break, at the same time making sure that our kids have a vital future by making sure that they have a good, solid education. So with that, the 56th governor of our great state of New York, Governor Andrew Cuomo.
Thank you, Bert. Thank you very much. I don't know about you, but I sort of like the mayor with the glasses, right? He has that intellectual look. I want to thank the mayor, and I want to thank his team for taking the time to meet today. I want to thank my colleagues in the legislature. You'll hear from Senate Minority Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousins. Senator George Latimer is here, Assemblyman Gary Pretlow, and Assemblywoman Shelley Mayer, and I want to thank them very much for being here. Yonkers has a crisis in education. That is clear. Possibility of laying off 200 teachers, ending essential services and programs in schools. It is a major, major problem, and that's why we're here. Financially, the issue is about a $28 million issue, give or take, which is a significant amount of money. This is after the increase that the state has provided, which was about $20 million from last year. This is after the savings that the mayor accomplished by his managerial efforts. So even though a massive amount of work has been done, we still have a gap of about $28 million. When a gap is that large, a bandage doesn't work. And we basically went through the same exercise last year. And the point of our conversation inside was we want to make sure that we are making the structural changes that need to be made so that a gap this large does not reoccur. When you're talking about this large a gap, it's not a rounding error. It means you have to make structural changes. The mayor's already started to do that. And the mayor and the city are going to have to do more. Where can the city get more revenue? Where can the city get more savings? And that's going to be the exercise. And then factor that out so next year we're not in this situation. So we are of two minds. I think I speak for my colleagues also. We're pleased to partner with the city in resolving this crisis. We don't want the services ended, and we don't want the teachers fired, and they will not be. We will work together to make sure that doesn't happen. The parents are right. It's about their children, and they're right that education is the priority. It's the speech that every politician gives. So we are going to make sure that does not happen in Yonkers. The details we will work out between the city and the state, but we are prepared to make a financial commitment where we can tell you today those cuts will not be necessary. At the same time, we want to make sure next year we're not back here working through, in the last days of a legislative session, another financial crisis. We'll come back next year, but to celebrate something and to have a little breakfast, something you could have offered us, anything. It's the Italian heritage. You remember the Italian heritage, okay. But we want to make sure we solve the problem with structural gaps. Now, I would like to say that Yonkers is the only city that's having this kind of problem. That is not true. You have city districts, you have county districts, rural districts all across the state that have a significant number of failing schools. In the budget we just passed, we had a major financial package for school districts with failing schools. As it happens, most of that funding is going to go to New York City. Why? Because New York City is the largest school district. New York City had the largest number of failing schools, so most of that funding is going to go to New York City. I'm going to propose today to the legislature a new fund of $100 million dedicated to struggling schools in upstate New York. We addressed a majority of the problem in the budget for New York City. We have not addressed the problem in upstate New York, and this $100 million fund would go a long way towards doing that. Upstate means Bronx North when you're looking down from Albany. So certainly Yonkers would be eligible within that fund. And that would provide us with the resources to help Yonkers but also to help Buffalo, Rochester, Syracuse, Binghamton, Albany, school districts that are struggling across the state, because it's not a unique problem. I'll make that proposal today. My colleagues in the legislature have another 2-3 days of legislative session. So the good news is this can't be hanging around long before we have a final decision, because it's only 2 or 3 days. That's the good news. Bad news is they're going to have to work very hard over those 2-3 days to help get this passed. But knowing the caliber of legislative official you have here, I believe they can get it done, and I'm pleased and proud to be part of it. I want to thank the people of Yonkers, and I want to thank the parents of Yonkers for speaking up the way they did. They made a powerful case. They made their voice heard. That's how democracy works. They stood up and they defended their children, and God bless, they were right. And then it's government's obligation to figure out how to fix the problem. And that's what we've done today, because we will fix this problem for this year, and we'll begin making the kind of changes we need to make so we don't face this problem next year. I congratulate the mayor, and I thank him for his good work. This is a very large undertaking. Yonkers has had troubled finances for a long time. I remember as a kid, my father working with Yonkers and trying to figure out their finances, so this predates any of us. But the mayor has made real changes, and the council has made real changes, and I applaud that. More work to do, but we're on the right track. So congratulations to all. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor. I know members of the Yonkers City Council and some of the members of the Board of Trustees are here. We'll announce them in a little bit. But the governor, obviously, you know, as we all know, an executive branch, we can't do it alone. We need our legislative branch to be working alongside with us. We have a fantastic four. That's what I call them, the individuals who represent Yonkers, who fight for our city each and every day. It's led by the Senate Democratic leader, and that's Andrea Stewart-Cousins. I'd like to come up and say a few words.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. You know, there's a lot of opportunities to stand here in the People's City Hall and to celebrate things. But certainly to be here with the mayor, with the council, with my colleagues in the state legislature, and certainly with our governor, to celebrate the fact that we will not be losing teachers, we will not be cutting the essentials for our children, is really one of the greatest celebrations that we could do. So I really want to thank the governor and his team for working so closely with our delegation and the whole city, and of course the parents, the PTA, the board, to make sure that this doesn't slip, that we understand beyond the shadow of a doubt that we must invest in our children, and we must find ways to make education the great equalizer it is. I say often, I'm a product of public school. My children went to public schools. We all know how important public education is. And if you were in so-called a failing school, it's not enough to label a school as failing. What's important is that the people who can make a difference roll up their sleeves and make that difference. And again, I want to thank the governor and all of my great colleagues for saying to the children of this city that we're not walking away. We're investing in you, and not just now, but for a future, because we know that investment, if we do it right, will pay us back 1,000-fold. So again, thank you, Governor, so much. And I wanted to introduce a man who also represents Yonkers with me on the state level. And beyond that, when I get to be the leader of the Democrats, I get to choose who does what. And I am very happy and proud that I was able to ask my good friend, Senator George Latimer, to be the ranker on education, a man who absolutely knows what it is education means. Senator Latimer, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Leader. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Governor, most of all, for your visit here to Yonkers. This is very encouraging news. We have lived with a dark cloud of doubt for months now. And when I talk to my friends who serve on the school board, my friends who serve in the city council, whatever political party they are, this has been the overwhelming conversation. What the governor has given us today is a path through that darkness, and that's exactly how we should see it. Now, we have a responsibility going forward. We go to Albany. We've got to go back, and we've got to erase the normal dotted lines between who's a Republican, who's a Democrat, who's an independent Democrat, which house is which, and we have to make a case. And the case is going to benefit Yonkers, and it's going to benefit other parts of the state. I grew up about 5 miles east of here, and I went to an elementary school and a middle school, junior high in those days, that are just like the schools that are going to be benefited here. And I know exactly personally, just as Andrea knows and others of you know, exactly how important education is. I'm the son of a maintenance man and the son of a factory worker, and I would have had no future if it wasn't for public education. And there are maintenance men and factory worker parents in Yonkers right this second that want the same future for their kid that my mom and dad wanted for me. This is the path through the darkness. Governor, we owe you a debt of gratitude for taking this initiative, which is hard to do, and that's why we need to do it bipartisanly. That's why we need to worry more about what we can accomplish than who gets the credit for it. We have to worry more about, can this be not just for Yonkers, but for other communities in this state. And I haven't traveled the state the way some have, but the problems we have in Yonkers and the problems we have in other parts of Westchester County are replicated elsewhere. But I did have the opportunity a number of years ago to be the chairman of the Westchester County Legislature. And although I don't live in Yonkers and I represent part of it, I said at that time, long before I ever represented Yonkers, if Yonkers succeeds, Westchester County will succeed. And I believe that. And when this city school district produces the product that it's capable of with the resources it is, when this city functions in the way that it can function, all of Westchester County benefits. And I suspect that when Westchester functions that way, so does the state. So we're very grateful for this opportunity today, this path through the darkness, and I believe when we go to Albany, all 4 of us, we're going to be working what we can do to make this happen. I want to introduce another one of those people. I've known him almost all my life. He's a very impressive guy. He represents part of Yonkers in the State Assembly, represents Mount Vernon, Assemblyman Gary Pretlow.
Thank you, Senator, and good afternoon, everyone. And Mr. Governor, on behalf of almost 30,000 students, all the parents, the 1,600 teachers of the Yonkers School District, I want to give you a large thank you. The Yonkers School District is a district that is on the verge of greatness, but you can't make that next step if you're operating with uncertainty. And it seems that every year there's uncertainty as to whether we're going to continue sports, whether we're going to continue this subject or that subject. With what we're doing today and how we're moving forward, it takes some of that uncertainty away, and it makes it better for our teachers to teach and our students to learn. I think that the Yonkers School District, which will flourish now, is really going to benefit from what we're doing here today. So, Governor, again, I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart and on behalf of I know you will hear from our school superintendent who is here, Dr. Zullo. I mean, he knows what's going on with this district, and he knows that this will be the big help that we're looking for. Or like Senator Latimer said, take us out of that dark path. Thank you. And before I forget, I have to introduce my colleague who represents, I guess, 2/3 of the city of Yonkers, Assemblywoman Shelley Mayer.
Thank you, Gary, and very special thank you to the governor. Thank you, Governor, for hearing the voices of our parents, our students, the wonderful athletes from Gorton High School who testified at the hearing that losing sports would be really the end of a very positive experience in education. We haven't let them down. You're allowing us not to let them down. We owe it to these children and their families to provide really what they deserve, which is a quality education. Yonkers is really on the cusp of something very great. Our schools continue to improve. This threat was such an emotional issue for our students and our parents and our staff and our whole city. And you have lifted a very very dark cloud off of our backs, and we're incredibly thankful for your leadership and for your hearing our parents and our students. And thank you, Mr. Mayor and the council, for agreeing to work with us, because there is a path out of this. It is not a simple path. It is not a one-year exercise. We have a lot of work to do, and I know you have the commitment of those of us in the state legislature to work together on the path to ensure that this is not a yearly exercise, that we move forward and make Yonkers as great as it can be. So with that, thank you very much, Mr. Governor. Thank you, Mayor, and I think it's back to you.
Thank you, Assemblywoman. You know, it was just a little over 3 years ago where, when we, and I mean me, I'm joined by members of the City Council, our Council President, Leah McLaughlin, the Majority Leader of the Yonkers City Council, who couldn't be here, John Larkin, Minority Leader Mike Sabatino, my Councilman Mike Breen, Christopher Johnson, City Councilman here from the 1st District, and then, of course, members of the Board of Corazon Pineda, who's here too, our Councilwoman, Dennis Shepard, who's here. I didn't mention because he's a Ranger fan, but it was just 3 years ago where, if you remember, we inherited a district, didn't have music, didn't have sports, didn't have art, and we worked very hard to restore those programs, and we were facing losing what we've been able to restore. Because of the governor, I want to say thank you, Governor. We now won't have to face that, and we'll also be restoring full-day pre-K. And so, and that's a big thing for the residents of Yonkers to hear. The trustees that are here, Nader Sage, Steve Lopez, thank you for being here, and Dr. Y, the superintendent of schools, is with us as well. We still have some work to do, but I think this is a good press conference to show the taxpayers of our city, especially the members of the PTA and our kids, that we are committed to solving the problem, and the problem will be solved, and we won't be seeing those cuts.